It sounds remarkably close to human. We're making AI super easy for you.
A year ago, most of these tools didn't even exist.
And it has a free version, which is pretty generous.
We would recommend start with ChatGPT.
So you're clearly Team Claude. I use the free version. I know. Welcome back to Chocolate and Spice Talk. I am Neha, and to quickly share more about myself to those who are new here, I'm a computer science engineer and an MBA with over 20 years of experience in leadership and technology. I love learning, teaching, and honestly, right now, I'm obsessing over how the world is changing with AI.
Hey everyone, I'm Nidhi, and I'm also an engineer and have a business degree with over 15 years in product and technology. And I love a good plan, a good laugh with my friends. And right now, I have at least five different AI projects that's keeping me busy. And this is part two of our very carefully curated AI series. In part one, we broke down the history of how we got here.
Yep. So today we're going to share with you the exact AI tools that will change how you work, create, and live. We've tested a bunch of them ourselves, so we can share with you, and we're going to give you our honest take on each one of them.
And we're also going to do jargon buster segment today. And we have five new terms for you that you probably keep hearing in the AI world. By the end of this episode, hopefully you will know a little bit more about them.
So we're going to cover AI for thinking, AI for creating, AI for building, AI for content workflow, and more such stuff. So let's get into it. All right. So we will start with the first segment, which is how can AI be your thinking partner? If you're still thinking about the old chatbots, which would forget the first question by the time you ask the third, this is not it. So we're going to be going into really generative AI based chatbots. And the three examples that we'll cover are ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini.
So, what you're trying to say, Neha, that these are our thinking partners, right? So, they can write for us, they can do research, brainstorm, analyze, summarize, code, plan. Honestly, just the list keeps on going. But each one of them has their own personality and strengths. So, Neha, let's break it down.
Yeah, so let's start with ChatGPT, which is owned by OpenAI. And it's the one that kind of started it all. Like the current LLM or the current chatbot craze kind of started with ChatGPT, and it brought AI into mainstream.
I don't know if you remember when it first came out, and I tried it, and I was like, what is this hype around, and what are people talking about? And when I tried it, I was like, all right, I think I get it.
Exactly. So if we really go deeper into what is ChatGPT best, I mean, you and I have used ChatGPT for years now, from the time it came out. So really, it's the best all-rounder if you want a conversation partner because it has a very large ecosystem of features. It can browse the web, it can generate images if you want, it analyzes data. I think it can also write code now, and it really does have very sophisticated reasoning. So if you're not sure which AI to start with, especially as conversational partner, ChatGPT can be a solid first choice because it's really very conversational and really easy to talk to.
And I use it a lot for brainstorming sessions. So when I'm stuck on a content idea and I need, somebody to run with me through different angles, I use ChatGPT, and I can have, like what you said, like back and forth conversation. And it's like thinking out loud with a smart friend.
And there is a free version, which is great. The GPT, I think 4.0 is free and it's pretty capable. I pretty much use that. So there is also, however, a plus plan or a premium plan, which is $20 a month. So any such figures we give you is based on our current today's research. It may of course change as the caveat, but with $20 a month, you actually get access to latest reasoning models and more usage capacity as well. But for most people, like I said, free version is plenty to start with.
All right, let's talk about Claude now from Anthropic, which is honestly one of my favorite.
Everybody's team something, so you're clearly team Claude. To be honest, I am not team anything, but I do like Claude a lot.
So it is my favorite, and it is obviously, as I said, it's made by Anthropic, and it is one of the best writers of the three that we mentioned. So it's not just it writes grammatically correct sentences; it actually, is so natural and so thoughtful. So when I need to write something important, like a work email or email to leadership or a product document, it gives me such a good first draft that it actually is like I don't even have to edit it. It's so high quality and it gets a tone right and love its personality. I don't know if you have felt that these different tools have personality. I feel like Claude has one, and I just like its personality better than the rest that we just mentioned.
Yeah, and there are so many comparative reviews out there for each of these, and pretty much that's what most of these reviews say. Because Claude consistently wins on writing quality. Now, of course, it depends upon what you mean by quality. It's very contextual. It really does follow nuanced instructions, and it can handle very long documents. That's interesting because it has a 200,000 token context window, which means you can paste an entire book or a really long 100-page report, and it'll analyze the whole thing, and it won't lose track of it.
And here is something wild, which a lot of us already know, that now Claude has something called Claude Code, which is a coding tool that has already hit like $1 billion in revenue. Like a
Cool.
billion, again, content. I mean, it might change anytime after we record it. But for like coding assistant, we'll talk more about it in a building segment. But this product is keeps on growing.
Yeah. And again, it has a free version, which is pretty generous. I use the free version. I know you are the one who uses the pro version, and I believe the pro version is $20 a month as well, just like ChatGPT. So, if you're really into research or writing research heavy notes or articles, Claude is the one to try. And then the third one that we want to talk about is Gemini, which is Google's AI. Um, Gemini actually has a superpower that the other two cannot match.
Let me guess. Are you talking about Google integration?
Yeah, I mean, Google always has that advantage. Google is in most people's drives or homes in one way or the other. So Gemini lives inside your Google ecosystem, whether you are on Gmail or Google Docs or use Google Slides, Google Meet, whatever. If you're in the Google Workspace, Gemini is already right there in the workflow. So they did integrated really well into most of their workflows that people use. And the advantage then is that you don't really have to copy paste stuff from one to the other like you would have to do in ChatGPT or Claude. You really can be writing a document, and you pretty much ask Gemini to help you write inside that document, so you're not leaving.
And I think this is a very big advantage for a lot of people because the hardest part of adopting AI technology, AI tool, or any tool for that matter, is changing your workflow, right? And if the AI is already inside the tool that you use every day, the barriers disappears.
Yeah. And I believe Gemini may also be the strongest when it comes to real time information because, Google search, right? Like obviously Google search is automatically integrated into that. And it's pretty powerful. So if you're researching on something that is happening right now, for example, like news or market trends or current events, Gemini probably has an edge because it's pulling from the freshest data. But I am sure things are changing and every other model is evolving as rapidly.
True. So let us try to summarize the big three for our listeners. So if you want the best all-rounder with the most features, we would recommend start with ChatGPT. If you want like a best writer with the deepest thinker, go with Claude. And if you live in a Google environment, workspace, and want AI built right into your existing tools, Gemini is your pick.
Yeah. And to be honest, I feel like most power users use at least two of them, right? Like obviously $20 per month as a paid tier, but also there's, since I just mentioned, the free versions are also surprisingly very, very capable. And so there is no rule that you have to pick one. Just in transparency, I use all three, depending upon the context.
And I use all three too. And I am on the paid version of all of them. Tell you the truth, Neha. On Claude, I'm in $100 version, not 20, because I'm such a power user. Again, I also use it for work, and there are a lot of other use cases for me. I use it for coding too. So my usage is a little bit higher. But again, I have different use cases for all of these tools, and I'm very clear about that. So
More power to you. You're learning even faster. It's amazing. All right. So before we move on, I wanted to ask you really quickly, Nidhi, because you're very strategic about how you use these tools like you just mentioned. So what is your secret to getting so much out of them?
all right, so there is something which a lot of people might already know, and maybe if you don't know, this might be like a secret sauce to get a lot productivity out of these tools. Is like both ChatGPT, Claude, even Perplexity, which is another tool. They have a concept called projects. This is a game changer for anyone who uses AI regularly. So let me give you an example. So for our podcast in ChatGPT, I have a project called Chocolate and Spice Talk Podcast. And
Mm.
inside that project, I have loaded all the context about every episode. So, all our notes, all our research, all our history, whatever we have discussed, the guide. you know our brand guidelines. So every time I start having a conversation with ChatGPT in that project, it already has a lot of context, so I'm not starting from scratch. I do not have to re-explain everything, and it remembers it. It has a memory, so that's huge, right?
It is huge because I believe one of the biggest frustrations, at least I have, is sometimes AI does not remember things. And you have to, when you start a conversation, it does not remember the context from previous conversation. And I might still be in that world, but clearly Project solves that.
Yeah, so what I do is I also upload like templates in the project. There's a way to upload a lot of things. You can write a lot of things. So I have templates saved in the project. So for example, for the social media post, we have different days, we have different kind of social media clips we upload. Like Monday is quote of the day, Tuesday is like blooper, Wednesday is teaser, and so on. So and we are consistent with what we produce. So all of them have like certain formats. So what I've done is I've uploaded the format. Now I give the context about, this is the episode we talked about. Now it helps me brainstorm like what is the content I want to do. So it helps me remain really organized, which I would not have been able to do like a year back when we started this. I didn't have all of this tool and I just felt so overwhelmed. And now I feel like I know in 1 hour I can achieve so much thanks to these tools.
Yeah, I love that. So the takeaway is do not just chat with AI, right? Build a relationship with it, give it context, save your templates, create projects. And I feel like the more you invest upfront into it, the more it gives back, the
True.
smarter it
That's
gets.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Like before we move on, let's touch on one more tool, which is Perplexity, because it's really changing the way people are searching for information.
Oh, yes. Perplexity is so powerful and cool. I think the way I would describe it is imagine if like if you were talking to Google, instead of like in the search engine, instead of it giving you hundreds of links, it basically answered your question and gave you the actual sources, so you can believe that it really went through a bunch of sources and it collected the right answer and serving you the right answer. That's the power of Perplexity. So it puts all the citations right next to the text so you can verify everything.
So citation is the key here for Perplexity. So that's one thing that this tool does, which others don't as easily as it's visible in Perplexity. So I use it a lot for research. So when I have to understand a complicated subject or a topic, a health question or a business concept, or at work, I do a lot of competitive research. So Perplexity really gives me clear answers, and it also does cite like what website they use,
Yeah.
how did they get information. I can click on it. I know it's not hallucinating. I know it's not making a thing up. I know what I present to my team is going to be accurate, which is a deal breaker for me. So that helps.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it is free to start with, and it does have a pro plan, which is $20 a month. Looks like every single one of them is $20 a month. If you
Pricing
want,
is consistent, right?
it's consistent. Yeah, yeah. All right, let's get into our next segment, which is super exciting. So we're going to be talking about the AI tools we tested for creating. And this is where the fun stuff can happen. Like you could generate image, videos, music, and do video editing.
All right. Let's start with one that our listeners might have already heard, Canva. And if you have not looked at Canva lately, you're missing out because it's such an easy tool to create images, videos, and more. And they also have a couple of new AI features like Magic Studio. And I know, Neha, you are close to this product. So why don't you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I am on a paid plan of with Canva, and Canva does have what they call the Magic Studio. Essentially, it has a bunch of different AI features. So it's very text driven, as in you can use text prompts and you can generate images, videos, even presentations, and whatever else you want. So for example, you could say something like, create an image of steaming coffee, and it generates several options, of course, depending upon if you want a video or an image and so on. Magic Write is also another one which I've used, and it is basically like you can type something and it will generate a text depending upon what kind of text you wanted to generate. So a lot of very cool features that Canva has, but there are also many incredible tools that can generate images and videos, and I've tried a bunch of them. They're so good. You won't believe how good they are. Like one of them is Runway, another one is Sora, Kling AI. I think Google has its View and Nano Banana. All of these are mind blowing in that all you have to do is type and tell what you want to create, and it's going to create a reasonably, sometimes professional quality, high quality video. And it is slightly dependent upon how you are able to explain. Like, you have to know what you want and what kind of mood or imagery you want to create, and it will do that for you.
Yeah. So if you're a beginner looking for something quick, simple, I think Canva AI can be great for you. And those features are included in the free Canva plan, right?
Yep.
And I know you are on the pro plan. I'm assuming that's $13 a month. And for more advanced creation, especially if you're into more professional video and image work, Runway, Sora are unmatched.
Yeah. And like I said, Google also has its Nano Banana and View, which are also pretty good. And these days, they're also building all those studios, which have a bunch of these models incorporated within the studio. So you can just, you know, take a plan from a particular studio and then use all of these models. So that's pretty cool. But let's get into another fun one, which I know Nidhi you love a lot, and that is music creation from Suno.
Correct. So Suno is an AI tool that creates entire songs from a text description. And I know that sounds impossible, but let me be specific. Like you type something like upbeat, Hollywood, fusion, pop about celebrating life with friends. And within like 30 seconds, Suno is going to give you a full song with vocals, with instruments, versus like chorus and bridge, everything. It's not like loop or beat, it's a complete structured song. It blew my mind.
I know when you first told me about it, I was like, I was hesitant. I didn't trust you. But when I tried, I was really, blown over, especially the latest version, Suno V5. It sounds remarkably close to human.
That's true.
I will say that.
You do not need to know like a single thing about music. No instruments, no music history, nothing. You just describe your vibe you want, and it creates it. And my son Vikram and I are obsessed with it. Like Vikram writes the lyrics, and he's writing, "Oh, there's a train and it's going on a high speed, and there's a person dancing on top of it, and then there is a metro." He'll write some weird sentences, and he'll say, "Mama, give this instruction to Suno and tell it to make a K-pop song." And then you dance,
Nice.
and it makes like a K-pop with his lyrics, and he's very happy because it's literally taken his lyrics,
Yeah.
and he loves K-pop, and we both dance on it, and it's just pure joy.
It is spiritual, I agree. Though, of course, it is not perfect because I did try, and you know me, right? Like, I was like, well, this is where it's messing up. And, it mispronounces words. Sometimes it doesn't get the instructions right. So you do need to try a bit. But once you get a hang of it and you know exactly what to type and you have some patience, you pretty much get some professional sounding, at least jingles or, shorter songs very, very quickly.
Yeah, and after reviewing like 10 AI music generators, reviewers have suggested that Suno is one of the best for creating music in 2025. It's free to start with limited credits, and they obviously paid plans. I think we both of us are on the free plans, but even for like creating our podcast music, the tiny music, or like anything else, it's like it's fun. I would suggest everybody to give it a try.
Yeah. And because we are in the creating category, we should definitely talk about Notebook LLM, which is a very, very powerful one. And I know, Nidhi, you talked about it. I use it as well, but you're a power user.
Yes, and I have recently discovered this, and this has been out for like a year now, but I've recently gotten into it and I absolutely love it. So let me explain what it does. So you upload your own content, your articles, your research paper, your PDFs, YouTube videos, Google Doc, audio videos, anything you can upload to Notebook LM, that content and any kind of thing. And it can summarize, it can create study guides for you, it can create FAQs for you, and it's everything it's able to digest and give you something in return.
Yeah. And there's this one feature that they have, which really blew my mind, which was their audio overview. So you upload your documents, and Notebook LM creates a full conversation about the document. So two AI voices will actually, while sounding human, will discuss your content back and forth, and they will, get excited about interesting points. And the first time I heard, I couldn't tell it was AI, and I think there was like a lot of chatter about it all over internet as well.
So a lot of students use it. I've heard. So if there's a boring thing like that you have to learn in a textbook. You use Notebook LM, and many people prefer hearing instead of reading. But the concept is the same. You still have to learn, right? And they like to listen in a podcast style. They're driving. So, it can do a lot with audio. But the thing is, it's not just audio anymore. They have also added something called Discover, where
Mm,
it creates these beautiful visual briefs like infographics, key highlights, like bite sized takeaways from whatever you've uploaded. So it will stick to your knowledge base. It won't like go anywhere else. So if you have like a 50-page report you need to quickly understand, Notebook LM can give you an audio conversation to listen to you on your commute, a visual summary you can skim in like 2 minutes, a detailed FAQs and all of that. Like at work, we do use Notebook LM. Like if there is like as a product manager, if there's a product that's coming out, we upload it in Notebook LM, and then the support team uses my content to create quiz for the team, because support team has to completely understand the product that's releasing, because if the call comes in, if they're not aware. So we use this very heavily, and exactly what I said, like they use my content to create quizzes for the team, to use like interesting content, and it works really well.
that's amazing. And it's also available in over 80 languages now. Of course, it's powered by Gemini, it's Google's product. And the best part is it only uses what you give it. So it's not gonna just make things up, or it's not gonna pull random stuff from the internet. It's definitely grounded in your sources. So apart from the fact that, it has the protection of your sources only, it also hallucinates less than a regular chatbot would have.
Yeah. So, what we would suggest is that if you're a student with like piles of readings, or a professional who needs to go through some dense report, or a podcaster researching a topic, or even just somebody who has like 20 saved articles, never get around reading them, we would suggest upload that into Notebook LM. It's a free tool, it will do all the heavy lifting for you. And honestly, one of the most underrated AI tool it's out there, I think, is Notebook LM.
Agreed, agreed. Okay, let's move into the next section, which is AI for building and the rise of vibe coding. So I feel like, especially if you're not very close to technology, you might be surprised to learn about what vibe coding is. And it is something that, even as computer science, folks, we couldn't have imagined a few years back, which is like we always assumed we are going to be writing code to make things happen, right? That's how you build an app or make a system work or build websites. But that you could do that without knowing code is
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
And to add to that, it is not just some like toy demo. Real startups are being built this way, like real businesses, real products that people are paying for. So in Y Combinator latest batch, there is this famous startup incubator in the world, and 95% of them are all the code of them are like AI generated. Can you imagine, like 95%? So
It's ridiculous. It's
yeah.
ridiculous. So let's get into the term vibe coding because it's really everywhere. So what does that actually mean?
All right. So in early 2025, a brilliant AI researcher named Andre Carthy, he was the one co-founder of OpenAI, and he used to lead AI at Tesla. He coined this term called vibe coding.
Yeah. And what does that mean?
All right, vibe coding. I know. I mean, I use it so much. It's like, oh, vibe coding. What is there to not understand? So it's actually exactly what it sounds like. Instead of like writing code line by line, you describe a vibe or what you want in plain English, and AI writes all the code for you. So it's described like fully giving it in the vibes and forgetting that code even exists. In English language, you tell it what to do, it's going to do whatever you told it to do, hopefully. So,
Yeah, yeah. So can you talk about an example? How does it work in real life?
all right. So imagine you want to build an app for a small business. So before AI, how would you do that? You would probably have to either learn to code, which takes months and years, or you would hire a developer, which costs thousands of dollars. But like with wipe coding, you can actually open a tool such as Lovable or Replit. These both are tools. And you can literally type something like build me a customer management app where I can add client, track their order, send a follow up emails, and within a couple of minutes, you will have a working application with a real database, with real interface, with real functionality, all in like one sentence of your command. It'll build you everything.
Yeah, and like you said, These are not some fun toy projects. These are real projects. And for those who are professional coders, like it goes into their code into GitHub. And,
Mhm.
and there are enough folks who've tested it and said that the code is actually pretty clean and well structured and can be maintained. So AI writes all of that for you.
Yeah.
Um, all right, let's talk about Lovable. I know you love it.
Yeah. So it's personally my favorite. So I think Lovable at this point is 1 year old. And the month it launched, I started using it. So I've always wanted to create something of my own and not use like templates on Webflow or like Squarespace or whatever. No, no, like those are great tools. I'm nothing against them, but I've always wanted to have complete creative independence. I don't know if you remember the first thing that I made with Lovable.
Yeah, I remember. It was your portfolio site.
Yeah. So, and I was so excited. It was like a year back. I was like, all right, so what's the first thing I should make? It's like, how about a portfolio? And I'm going to make it interesting, like put my resume in it. And I worked on it, my story, and I made it so creative. It gave me so much joy. And that was the time when Lovable had just come out. I practiced so much that I got really good at prompting. And prompting is telling a tool what you want. So the thing is, it should be clear in your mind what you want, and only then you can tell anybody what to do. So yeah, so I was describing what I wanted, it was building it. I watched this product grow for over a year now, and it's as I said, it's year old. And at this point I've built like 7 or 8 applications and sites, and it's just joy. It's to be a builder at this time.
Yeah. And you know what? When you talk about your portfolio, I thought like years and years, like I don't know, 15 or so years back when I built my portfolio for some interview, I use HTML and CSS, right? Like and just like different scripts to be able to make it work. And I was so excited about it. And then came Squarespace to a point which made it simpler, with WYSIWYG and templates. And now you have Lovable, where you just tell it. Of course, to your point, yeah, you have to always know exactly what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, if you want it again, it it depends on how much creative control you want to give the tool. Like if you don't know and you're experimenting, just build me something, it will still come up with a beautiful design. But if you're choosy, it's like if you want this color and that color, you have to exactly give it the context. So yeah, that's wonderful.
yeah. And has Vikram been doing something with this as well?
Yes, so he has seen some of my site projects that I worked on. He got like really excited, and he was like, "I want to build something." And I was like, "All right." So he's, for context, he's 7 years old, and I'm using this tool like Lovable. We build a lot with Lovable, and I'm using this opportunity to teach him how to think clearly and communicate his ideas. Because what is prompting really? As I said, you have to have a clear thought, and then you tell the computer what you want, and all starts with clarity of thought. So that's what I'm teaching him, right? Yeah.
That's amazing. And that's the whole point with these AI tools. They can be leveraged really well. They will do your job, they will make things efficient and make you very powerful, but you have to know what you really want. You have to have that critical thinking of this is exactly what I want for this reason, and this is how it should look or behave. So
Yeah.
that's where, yeah, we need to continue improving ourselves. Is there any catch with Lovable?
The catch with Lovable is, I think, a number of uh,
Credits, right?
yeah, I
Do you
think the credit is, yeah, it just depletes the credits really fast depending on how much you ask of it to do. So when I was in the free version, I would get like really, really, conscious, because I would like lose all the credits and I'm in the middle of building, and then I'm like, now what am I supposed to do? Wait for 24 hours for the new credits to come in, or wait for next month based on what plan you are in. So that's a thing. I mean, it's getting better, but now that I'm in the paid version, it's not a big deal. But yeah, that is one of the catch.
That is definitely a catch for me because I'm on the free version, and then I get 5 credits every day.
Yeah.
And the first time when I got so excited, I started building, and 5 credits just ran off so quickly, and I'm like, oh man, okay, I wait for another day, and I really waited for another. I'm like, right dot when the next day started, I was like, okay, I will deplete my 5 credits. But yeah, it's very powerful, and going on a paid plan if you're very serious about the app that you're building is a great idea.
Right.
All right.
And similar to Lovable, we have another tool called Replit. Have you used Replit?
I have heard of Replit. I've not personally used a lot of it. I primarily use Cloud Code or Lovable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the concept is the same. It's a browser-based coding platform. Tell you the truth, they recently launched mobile, so I shouldn't just say browser. And they can write code in any language in the browser without installing anything. And in 2025, they went all in AI. They have AI features, they have agent features. And agent, we're going to explain agent a little bit later on what that is, but it has again become a very, very powerful tool for non-technical people who want to build like a functional web trigger or this tool that automatically collects information from the website, and it handles everything for you. No configuration needed. It has a database, it has connection to everything. Again, it starts with a free version, and you can obviously choose to go to a paid one if you need more tokens or credits.
amazing. All right. So our final building tool that we want to talk about is Cloud Code. We already mentioned it. Claude Code is from Anthropic, the same company that made Claude, the assistant that we talked about earlier. And before we dive into the code part of it specifically, I wanted to quickly explain the Claude ecosystem because Anthropic has built out a few different products and it can get confusing, right?
Yeah, all right.
As
Yeah, that's true. And I use Claude very extensively, as I mentioned. So let me break it down on how I use all of them. So there are three parts to Claude now. So first is the Claude chat that is most people are aware of. It's like the conversational AI we talked about earlier, where you type in a question and you get an answer. And think of it like a thinking partner, the chat portion.
mm,
Second is the co-work, which is more like having a teammate. So co-work can connect to your actual work tools like Slack, your Google Drive, your Notion, your calendar, and it can help you with real tasks across all of these platforms in one place. And third is Claude Code, which is a developer tool, is one that actually writes and edits code for you.
yeah, so they're also building their ecosystem. So chat, the Claude chat is for thinking, Claude Cowork is for working, and Claude Code is for actually building tools. So tell us more about code now.
This is my recent obsession, by the way, Claude Code. I live in Claude Code now, and it was launched in Feb 2025. And again, almost a year old. And by November 2025, it had already hit like $1 billion in annual revenue. 1 billion in less than a year, which, it's a big deal. And it is a little bit more technical than what we talked about, Lovable and Replit. So it is designed for people who already are working in code or want more control. But that being said, you can still talk to it in English language. It'll code, but I just feel that you can work through terminal, or you can work through, there's a Claude code section in which you can speak in English, but it is a little bit more technical than Lovable and Replit. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing with Cloud Code is that it really does understand your entire project. So it's not just like it's helping you write one line of code. It really can read your whole code base, understand how everything connects, and it can also plan out your implementation. So it makes changes across multiple files at once. And yeah, it's almost like having a developer, sitting right next to you and you telling them what to do.
True, and cloud ecosystem has evolved so much at this point. And at work, I use Cowork for practically everything. It's connected to everything I used on a daily basis, so I don't have to jump between like different tools. So I use day to day. So it's and at work, our whole company is connected to Claude, so everything is in central location. My conversation, my projects, my tool, my code. So that's truly helpful for productivity, right? No, I'm not context switching, or I'm not moving to different tools. And if the whole company is at one place, there's one source of truth, which is obviously great for everyone.
Yeah. And it is exactly that. Like if the problem with having too many tools, and that's why in our today's episode we didn't talk about too many tools, but like two or three top tools in each area. Because if you start trying out too many tools, you get overwhelmed and then you give up. Uh, which is neither here nor there.
Sure. All right. So, what is a big picture on building?
Yeah, so I think the biggest takeaway on this section about building is that We are living in a world where finally even the ability to build software is getting democratized, right? Like in a way we never expected actually. So you know, you may have a computer science degree and leverage it in a different way, or you may not have a computer science degree and build certain apps in certain ways using these tools. And you can pretty much just because you can pretty much describe what you want in plain words. So as long as you know what product you want, you can describe it, and with some understanding of how things work, make it happen.
Yeah. And we do want to be real. So these tools are not perfect. And again, this episode we are recording in 2026 March. So just for context, it
Yeah,
might get perfect later, but they do struggle with like complex features and they
yeah.
get stuck in loops sometimes. And the code that they produce is not always production ready for enterprise use. But for prototypes, for side projects, for MVPs, for personal tools, small business apps, this is a genuine revolution.
It is. And I'll give you an example. Like I was trying to just as a hobby, I was trying to build a site and with Lovable, and I gave it a command, and it was doing everything perfect, like everything perfectly. And it also tells you exactly how it's doing it, right? That's the best part of that whole UI. And then I gave it a command about, hey, remove the nav bar or like the background from the nav bar. And it pretty much removed it and changed its background color to a different color. Like it did more than I expected it to. It didn't constrain itself with exactly the command that I gave. So that's the thing. And then I had, no matter how I would say it, it would keep doing the same thing. But they also have really great feedback features. So you can tell it where you didn't like its approach or you didn't like its output. And that's helpful because then these models use that data to retrain themselves and get better next time. So a lot of different ways where if you use these tools, even when they're not perfect, you pretty much can can initiate a good feedback loop and make them work better for you. All right.
I
So
can be
with
a prompting teacher. So what you said, it did a little bit extra because I've built so many things. Lovable has this habit of doing a little bit extra because it's like, you told me to do this, but you know what? What I think you should maybe try this. So when I wanted to do something, it's like add this podcast picture on this website and add this thing. And then my last sentence on every prompt is do not change anything else. The moment you don't write that, it is so ambitious. It thinks it's so good. It's going to do something extra to impress you because, that's how the AI is built. They are people pleasing. They want to please you. They're going to do all the stuff. So my every prompt ends with do not change anything else.
that's a
That's the
great
only
trick.
rule. Yeah.
That's a
Tell me.
great one because, and we will talk about terms now, but that's what AI agents do. AI agents don't really need you actually to give a bunch of different commands. They are so smart, they can connect the dots and build a whole system for you if you let them. So, do you want them to or do you not? Is the question. All right, so with that, let's move into our jargon buster.
All right. So last episode, we broke down terms like model, generative AI, prompt, hallucination, and today we have five new ones. And these words are something you probably constantly keep hearing about. So are you ready for it?
Yeah, let's go with the one that we just started, right? Agents, AI agents.
All right. So what do you think about them? What are they?
So the thing with AI agents is like, let's start from the beginning in a way. So when we talk about the AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, when you give them a prompt, they will give you a response, right? It's like a conversation. You ask, the answer. An agent is fundamentally different, which is what you and I were chatting about for Lovable. An agent is a full system that is designed to take actions on your behalf to accomplish a goal. So, as long as it knows what your goal is, it will pretty much do it for you and won't ask you a bunch of questions.
Oh, that's
That's
interesting.
what
That's
it's
so
yeah.
true. All right. So give me an example.
Yeah, yeah. So imagine you tell this AI agent, book me a flight to, I don't know, New York next Friday or Saturday. It should be under 500 bucks or make it morning departure and a bunch of other instructions, just like basic stuff. That's all. If a few years back a regular chatbot would have responded and said something like, all right, here are some options, here are some websites you can go to, and then you would have taken the next step. An AI agent would actually do the entire thing for you. It would go to the airline website, search for the right flights, compare prices, pick the best one, fill in your information, book it, and do everything on your behalf.
Oh, that is so cool. And another quick real time example I'll give you of this agent. So I use agent to build our Disney plan. So we remember we did the Disney episode too, and we went to Disney World, and I told the agent to think through the entire problem. Again, it goes back to prompting. It's like, this is time. I didn't tell it to book my flight because I'm still not confident giving it credit card information. Like, find me flights between this and this time. This is the time I want to get back. These are 3 days. These are the three parks. This is figure out the weather, figure out my outfits, figure out what should I do. We want to be there at before 9 a.m. And it took like 2 or 3 minutes, but the kind of plan it gave me, it was wonderful. But yeah, these, and at that time, it, as you said, it also tells you what it's doing. So it ran 5 agents to do these things. It clearly said, I'm going to have 5 agents do these 5 different things, and it came back with a comprehensive plan for me. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's the spectrum part, right? Like an AI agent becomes more agentic the more of these behaviors it has, right? So the more proactive it is, instead of waiting to be prompted, the more agentic it is, right? So it can take real world actions, it can update database, it can send a message, it can check on live data, and it can use its own feedback loop to improve itself and do more work for you until you tell it to stop.
Yeah. So it goes from like just answering a question all the way to running your whole workflow, right? That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, exactly. OpenAI launched something called an operator in, I believe, January 2025. And that was pretty far along that spectrum because it could, you know, create its, like, it had its own web browser. It could fill in forms, it could make purchases, it could schedule appointments. Replit has an agent too, which can suggest code, and it can build an entire app, test it for you, and fix its own bug. Like, it's basically planning, acting, and self-correcting.
Oh man,
Amazing.
why do we need humans for? No, that's a different story. But
That is a topic for the next one. We will cover it.
uh,
All right. So our next term is RAG. It is not as, perhaps not as popularly talked about as vibe coding or agents, but RAG is essentially RAG, and let's talk about it.
all right. So here is a problem that RAG solves. So remember in episode 1, we talked about how AI models are trained on massive amounts of internet data. Well, all of this training data has a cutoff date, and AI knows everything up to a certain point, but it does not know what happened yesterday. And it definitely does not know what your company's internal document is or any of your personal files, right?
Yeah, yeah. So RAG, as a word, it's actually an acronym, and it stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So it's a fancy name. The concept is simple. Before the AI answers your question, it first retrieves relevant information from a specific source, which could be, like Niti just said, your company database, a set of PDFs, it could be a knowledge base, live web data, and then it uses that retrieved information to generate a more accurate and a more relevant answer.
To more like conceptualize it, it's like an open book test, right? So without RAG, the AI is taking a test purely from memory, whatever is learned during the training. With RAG, AI gets to crack open a textbook,
Yeah.
finds relevant pages, and then answer the question. So answer is not based on like old memories, it's based on actual current specific information.
Yeah, and here is where we can connect it to the term hallucinations, which we had covered in our last part on this series. Hallucination is pretty commonly, it's pretty common with a lot of AI, but it mostly happens when you do not give the model the context it needs to answer your question, right? So RAG directly it tends to solve that. So when AI has access to the right information at the moment you ask, it is going to hallucinate way less.
I just built and I'm working on a chatbot, chocolate and spice stock chatbot, which is based on the RAG model. So what I did is to build this model, I gave it the transcript from all of our 43 episodes, and I told it, this is your knowledge base. You have a personality. Neha is introvert, Nidhi is extrovert, and I gave it some context of like be humorous, be chatty, be whatever. But if you don't have an answer out of this transcript, please politely say I cannot answer, but this is your baseline. You cannot go beyond it. So that is exactly a RAG model, right? Exactly, you have to stay in this context. It's like you can't go open in the internet and search for some answers. You have to answer from within the knowledge base that I provided you.
Yeah, and that way, then you're true. Like in the case, the amazing chatbot that you built. In our case, Chocolate and Spice Talks case, it will only talk the way and about the things the way we both talk about. So it's not just making up stuff that we would have said. It really is our things that we have said. Just great. All right. The next term, our term three, is vibe coding, which we have kind of covered, right?
Yeah. I'm using a lot of vibe coding with my son, and he's building like a Ninja Turtle website. And again, so how vibe coding comes into play is I've taught him how to give a prompt. And that means in a piece of paper, he's going to write down that I want the website to be blue color. I want all the four Ninja Turtles to be there. I want it to be a scene that happens on the top of a building. This is the moral of the story. So I have told him, you cannot outsource critical thinking. You can give it command, it will build you something. So that's vibe coding. And then I've taught him in English language very clearly, tell the software, tell the app, like we have a mic button, we click it and tell it what you want, and it'll build it exactly what it is. So again, the tools are Lovable, Replit, Cursor, Bold. There are multiple in there. We both personally have used Lovable and Replit, and you can vibe code. And I would highly encourage people to give it a try. At least the free versions does a pretty good job.
Yeah, and especially, kids who will ultimately, by the time they grow up, they will be living in a world that's more full of generative AI. I mean, they may as well understand what it is, how to use it, where to use it, and what they should retain for themselves and what they should sort of give for AI to complete.
Mhm.
All right. Term four is fine tuning. And this is really about making AI more personal. So it may sound a bit like RAG, but it is really more personalized
Mhm.
AI.
So think of like a general AI model, like a doctor who just finished a medical school, right? And they know a huge amount of general medicine. But now the doctor goes and does a specialization. Maybe they become like a cardiologist. So fine tuning is that specialization process of AI.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So with that, we can move to our last term, which is MCP. It is also a somewhat technical term, but I'm pretty sure it's going to get more and more visible as AI enters our world more. So MCP is nothing but Model Context Protocol. And it sounds technical, but really, we could use an analogy that'll help everyone understand. So if you think about, everybody's used the USB ports, right? And what USB does is it kind of replaces the our past situation where every device had, a unique cable and a unique connector. Printer had one cable, keyboard had another. When you have a USB, you can pretty much transfer data across, like it's a standard plug that works with everything. And MCP is kind of like USB for AI.
Yeah, it's basically, in other terms, it's an open standard, right?
Yeah,
That allows AI models to interact with external tools. Again,
yeah.
there's MCP for everything. Again, at work, there's MCP that I use for calendar, for CRM, we use HubSpot. There is Slack. There is my code base. If you use Jira or DevOps, everything has MCP and it can connect and you can write to it. It can write it back to you. So it's like a standard interface. So any AI model can connect to any use using the same protocol.
Yeah, and the most powerful part is MCPs don't just let you read, like, right? Like, it does not just let the AI read from these tools, it will also give AI the ability to take actions through them. So if you're updating some records, say in Salesforce, or sending messages in Slack, all of this can be done via MCP, because MCP basically connects back to these AI agents. So in a way, MCP is sort of like the gateway for these AI agents to enter different worlds that they couldn't have entered otherwise.
Yeah. And I love how we went through all five of them. So let us do a quick recap for anybody taking notes. So agents are AI systems on a spectrum from answering questions to autonomously. Did I pronounce it right? Autonomously
Honestly.
running workflows. And RAG gives AI an open book test so it can answer with current specific information instead of hallucinating from memory. White coding is building software by describing what you want in English language. Fine tuning specializes in general AI for your specific needs by changing its internal weights. And MCP is a universal plug that lets AI connect to all your tools and take action.
Yep. And now you probably know more about AI than most of the world.
I don't know
I
about
don't
that.
know. I'm sure everyone's learning about AI.
Yeah.
We'll all get there. Yeah.
But
Right. So let's
I
keep
do
it real.
feel, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say we can wrap it up and really like summarize about all the tools that we just shared. So quickly, then the various tools that we talked about are the big three for conversation: Chat GPT, Claude, and then Gemini. These are your great entry points. Of course, there are more. There are free versions, there are paid versions. ChatGPT is a great all rounder. Claude is a really great writer and thinker. And Gemini lives inside Google's ecosystem. So you can pick one or pick all three.
Yeah, and AI is not just for chatting anymore, right? I think we talked about we can create image, music, video, even building real apps without technical expertise. And I think you do not need to learn everything all at once, right? Everything is moving incredibly fast. Nobody has all figured out. We would just suggest pick one tool, solve one real problem, build something, and then the goal is not to master anything overnight, just to play with it. Get a little bit more comfortable because the world is moving there.
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, if you want to create some random videos or even professional videos, try Runway or Sora or Kling AI. For images, you can try Nano Banana, or again, OpenAI has tools as well. Suno is great for music, Lovable and Replit great for building apps. Obviously, Cloud Code as well. So just the tools that we talked about, you could try picking any one of those or all of them, and you can pretty much at least start understanding how to use AI for your advantage.
All right. So,
All right.
Neha, what is next in our series?
Yes. So this was part two in our AI series. Part three is going to be really important. And I think it is the discourse that's happening the most right now in the world for very good reasons. So we're going to be diving into AI ethics, right? Like the bias that AI could have, the privacy issues, deep fakes, basically the questions on who really owns AI generated content, and how how are we going to live in a world full of AI, and how is it going to impact all of us in various ways, apart from our understanding of things we are seeing, like is it true or not, and does it matter, our jobs, how is it going to change things like that. So it's going to be a really interesting one.
True. And part four is for parents, next generation guidance. And we will talk about how do we prepare our kids for a real world where AI is just a part of life, right? And we would love to hear from you what AI tools you are using, which ones you love, which one confuses you, which one surprises you. DM us on Instagram or send us an email. We love to feature your stories too.
Yeah, it was great chatting about AI. Bye.
Bye.